Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. Now, I did make quite a few videos on this, but this is how I work, you guys. It's because of the glazing. It's these really thin washes that I allow to dry naturally. So it does take, it does take a little bit longer, and I want it to take a little bit longer because I want to get that effect. Now I'm gonna bring this up closer and I'm just gonna show you like some of the beautiful color fields that are going on. And I allowed the mixed media portrait that's underneath this to show through. Like pretty much a lot of this top part over here is just from my mixed media portrait. And this blue here was part of her dress. And of course I covered up her eyes and her facial features, but I left this part, which I really love. And a lot of the stuff on the bowl is actually just a part of her neck, I think. And what I'm going to do in this video is I am just going to finish things up, and this will be the last video for this series. Now you can do so many different things with mixed media. Like I could go in and add writing, like I left the writing from my portrait, so you can just add text. You can add different kinds of collage. You can just, the sky's the limit, you guys. And you know, I'm just really loving so much of what is going on that just kind of was a carryover from my portrait. So I'm really loving this yellow for the light. So I think what I'm gonna do is I did put some colors on my palette here off to the side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm leaving this completely alone. And if you remember from my still life series I did a couple of months ago, like when something is further back, it has less detail on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus on the part of the fabric or table that's kind of in the front because I'm pulling it forward, and I'm going to focus on the apple and maybe a little bit on the bowl. So what I want to do is I'm just gonna add some yellow here, and so I'm putting like a watery wash, which is, when I say glazing, that's what I mean. And glazing allows your previous layers to show through, not in a way that's like with my tea bags, not in like a way where your say the tea bags are translucent, not like that, but they allow it to show through in a way that replicates the way light actually comes through. And I'm probably not explaining that correctly, but light is very tricky, like even in real life, not even like with painting, but light is just a tricky kind of a thing to describe, I guess. And so what glazing does is it closely mimics the way light really comes through an object so that our eyes can perceive it. So if I'm not explaining myself correctly, you guys just ask me a question and then I will try to explain it better. But that's to my understanding, because obviously, you know, even the great artists, you can't replicate light. You can mimic light, like even Rembrandt. That's what he was painting. No matter what Rembrandt was painting, he was actually painting light. So even the masters, they were not painting light, they were mimicking light, because nobody can replicate light. Light is light. So I hope I'm making sense. I'm probably just, I'm probably just kind of being very confusing, but anyways, you guys, that is the way I understand it. So glazing is the closest way of mimicking light that you can get to. So I will be quiet about that for right now, so I don't like just ramble on. And I'm just kind of like building up my apple here. And now, one of the things I like to do is add like a gray cast to the apple, and that just kind of mimics the apple kind of like turning away in space, like the way it curves a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a gray cast. Now, I want it to be kind of like watered down a little bit here. So even on this apple, right? So the part that curves away is going to be a little bit of a kind of like a duller color. And then the part that is protruding out in space is going to be a brighter color. And I think I talked about this in my other still life, or maybe a portrait. I was talking about a sphere. So the ends are going to curve back in space. Even if it's not a lot, it is going to go back in space. And these are all things that we can do as artists to kind of like depict space. And I'm just gonna kind of put a little bit of that. And so because this is the apple is kind of sitting forward in space, I'm gonna just put a little bit more detail on the apple there than I am on the jar. And I think I want a little bit like that. And I'm just gonna mop that up a little bit because I don't want it to like be too dominant in the apple. Now I'm just gonna work on this a little bit over here, and I'm not gonna do too much to it because I want the apple to stand out because it is the furthest out of the three objects. Now this piece over here, I am going to add some white to it, but I'm going to wait until the end. So you guys, this over here, because I did not cover it up with collage, that is a little bit of the oil pastel and it is resisting. So I'm just going to leave it because I actually really love it. And that's what I meant when I said, you know, you can absolutely use oil pastels in your mixed media. It does not have to be the last layer, but that's just how I work. So you know, there are people who are, I think they call them purists, which is, you know, they follow things to the T, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've seen some really beautiful pieces of art, whether it's watercolor or oils or colored pencils or whatever it is. It's just everybody is different, you guys. So just kind of figure out, you know, find out what works best for you. And I'm just gonna kind of add some of those shadows. And remember, when you're doing shadows, it goes just like this is the motion that you make because shadows are flat. And I'm just gonna kind of put some like And then what I'm going to do is I am going to add some white. Just like that. And it's going to pull this part like forward. And I'm just going to use my paper towel here. I'm going to drag some of that in here. And because this is mixed media, you guys, and you can do whatever you want, I am just going to add some marks because I kind of like that. And this, like, you know, just gives it like some interest and some detail. Okay, you guys, I think that I'm gonna call this done, and I really love it. And I just posted a short, you guys, where I covered up a portrait, and actually it was this over here. I covered it up with my Prussian blue, and then I worked over top of it, and I added some tea bags, and I just did a whole bunch of stuff. So I just wanted to tell you guys, like, don't be scared of covering up your stuff. Like, if something isn't working, or if you're like, hey, I've learned everything I can, like, that was my 100-day portrait. And this one over here, and actually this was my 100-day portrait as well. And I'm just doing that series to learn, so it's not like I'm saving it for anything or anything like that. So I have no qualms about covering stuff up, and honestly I'm probably going to cover this up at some point, and I will probably paint a 100-day portrait over top of this. So I had a 100-day portrait, I painted a still life over top, and then I can come in and do a 100-day portrait or anything else that I want. So don't be afraid of working in this way, you guys. There are so many beautiful, delicious, happy, I don't even want to call them accidents, but, you know, beautiful things that can happen that I couldn't have thought of on my own. So thanks so much for following this series, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.